There's no question that Lonzo Ball was one of the most hyped rookies in recent NBA history. When I think about rookies coming into the league, the last one that I could think of that got this level of hype, buzz, and excitement surrounding his name might very well be LeBron James coming out of St. Vincent St. Mary's in that 2003 draft class, that great legendary 2003 draft class. When you think back, it's been almost 15 years since we've had a rookie this hyped for the NBA. And some of that has to do with the fact that he played at what you would call a premier program in UCLA, more specifically a major media market, the second biggest one in this country in Los Angeles. Very little of it, I think, actually has to do with him as the player. We know the vast majority of that revolves around his dad, LeVar Ball, his words, his antics, the big baller brand, the things that he said, the trash that he talked, talking about how his son was better than Steph Curry already, and so on and so forth, and something a lot of us, I'm sure, were easily dismissed as just hype and hype machine. But it was what it was, and when you got to the 2017 NBA draft, it just seemed like a natural fit. Lonzo Ball, Los Angeles Lakers, Los Angeles Lakers, Lonzo Ball. And ultimately, with Magic Johnson in the fold in the organization and the team having a need at point guard, once the Sixers traded up to 1 and they took Markelle Fultz, the opportunity arose. And history was made, I guess you would say. But Lonzo Ball is now a Los Angeles Laker. And it was going to be interesting to see how the kid handled the pressure and the stress of all the pressure I think his dad put on him, frankly, that some of the pressure he probably puts on himself, the pressure of playing for a marquee organization like the Los Angeles Lakers, playing in that media market of Los Angeles with all the national hype that he had, the expectations to come in and be an impact player from day one, to be a future star, the type of kid that come next year in the offseason and in the free agency period would be the type of kid that could potentially tip the needle for somebody like a LeBron James coming to play for the Lakers at the end of his career. So a lot of pressure on this kid. It was going to be very interesting to see how he handled it early on. And I think so far the results have been kind of mixed. And granted, we're only, as of this recording, 15 games through the Lakers season, but I think some Lakers fans and media alike are asking the question, should the Los Angeles Lakers be worried about Lonzo Ball? You're seeing a kid right now that's not being very assertive, very vocal on the court, making you question his leadership ability with other grown men, other NBA stars. Is he the type of alpha male that can truly take over a team, which is something that you want out of a point guard, more specifically a marquee big-name point guard like Lonzo Ball's hype coming out of college indicates that he is. He's not being very assertive, very vocal on the court. He just seems to kind of be going through the flow of the game. He just kind of seems to be there at times, not imposing his will on the game, which doesn't always necessarily mean it has to come from scoring. Point guards, I think of Jason Kidd, a lot of times would impact the game for many years of his career and maybe score 2 points, maybe score 4 points, 6 points. He would dominate in other facets. He would have double-digit rebounds, double-digit assists. He would shut down an opposing team's perimeter player or point guard. He would do a lot of things. He would set up his teammates. Those type of things where you could tell watching the game who the best player on the floor was that game, even if the stats sheet said that the guy shot 1 for 3 from the field and had 2 points. It didn't matter. He still dominated. But in general, you're just looking at Lonzo. He's not very assertive. He's not very commanding in terms of his presence on the court right now. And it really shows to me in his shooting, a shooting form that had a lot of questions and concerns about it, especially how it would translate to the NBA level. So far, it hasn't. He can't shoot. It's that simple. He's lacking confidence in his shot because his shot is whack. Point blank. Now, players go through stretches where they struggle with their shot and they lose their form and so on and so forth. They lose their touch, their rhythm, their feel, their confidence. And sometimes guys get it back and sometimes they don't. But right now, Lonzo Ball is lacking confidence in his shot because flat out he can't shoot. And maybe if you're a Lakers fan, you're looking at it and you're saying, we got Kyle Kuzma, who's been a revelation, who's playing like he should have been the number 2 overall pick. Lonzo Ball is playing more like a late first round to early second round pick than Kyle Kuzma is. And you look at that and you start to worry about, the kid that was drafted much later in that draft, and Kuzma, is vastly outplaying Lonzo. And you look at the struggles with Lonzo and the fact that the team's now in a position where they're benching him in the fourth quarter, as frankly they probably should be at this point. You start to wonder if you should be worried. Because you look at his stat line through 15 games. He's playing about 32 minutes a game. His 2-point field goal percentage, just his isolated 2-point field goal percentage, is just a shade north of 35%. That's doo-doo, period, no matter how you want to spin it. Not surprisingly, his 3-point shooting percentage is 23%. It's terrible. The kid just can't shoot right now. His free throw percentage, he's 50%. 50! He's only making 1 out of 2. So you could see a kid who I didn't think free throws were a huge, huge issue for him coming out of UCLA. Always could be better, sure, but I don't think it was that big of an issue. It's now trickled over into other things, which is clearly an indication of a lack of confidence. But you do look at some of the other things. He's averaging 6.6 rebounds a game, 6.9 assists per game, 1.3 steals per game, 2.7 turnovers per game. So, when you talk about turnovers, he's not turning the ball over a ton. Sure, you would like that to be a little lower, the assist to be a little higher. His assist-to-turnover ratio right now is only 2.55 assists per turnover. I mean, that's mediocre, but it's not terrible, but it's not great. I think when you look at it, you're saying 15 games, the kid can't shoot, so it's going to really impact his ability to score the basketball. And while he's doing some other things, he's not doing those other things at a great enough, high enough level right now to compensate for the lack of shooting prowess. And you've heard a lot of comparisons between him and Jason Kidd, and I do think it's interesting to go back and look at Jason Kidd's rookie year in Dallas. He played 79 games, averaged almost 34 minutes a game. His 2-point percentage was 43. His 3-point shooting percentage was 27. His free throw percentage was just a shade under 70%. 5.4 rebounds a game, 7.7 assists per game, 1.9 steals per game, 3.2 turnovers per game, and an assist-to-turnover ratio of 2.4. When you look at that, you can see some similarities. Kidd was shooting a little bit better than Lonzo Ball as a rookie, but really not by that much, except maybe at the free throw line. Lonzo, as a rookie, is a little bit of a better rebounder. Jason Kidd's a little bit of a better facilitator and was a better defender. But when you look at it and you say Lonzo's not that out of whack with Jason Kidd's rookie season. Like, we can think back now on Jason Kidd in the entirety of the body of work of his career, and we could say he was one of the best ever to play the position. He was no doubt a Hall of Famer, a first ballot Hall of Fame type of guy, skip-de-skip-em, whoop-de-woo, a legend of the game. And all of that is true. But it doesn't deviate from the fact that when he came out of California on that tournament run that they had in '94, where they beat Duke in the second round and so forth, that Jason Kidd came into the league and he had his struggles from the field. He was never really a great shooter anyways throughout the entirety of his career, and yet he still went down to be one of the all-time great point guards in history. So should the Lakers and Lakers fans be worried about Lonzo Ball? Yes and no. If measured based off of Jason Kidd's rookie season, and when you think about bigger point guards, all bigger point guards are either measured against Magic Johnson or Jason Kidd. And we'll use Jason Kidd as the more relevant, recent history and comparison. When measured based off of Jason Kidd, Lonzo Ball doesn't look that bad. He's got some areas where he's better. His assist-to-turnover ratio is better. He's averaging more rebounds per game. But Jason Kidd was better in other areas, but neither one of them shot well so far in their careers. Jason Kidd is a rookie. Like I said, he didn't shoot the ball well, as the numbers clearly indicate. Lonzo Ball hasn't shot the ball well. He shot it worse than Jason Kidd, but neither one of them had shooting performances that were worth writing home about as rookies. And if that's what we're concerned about, maybe we shouldn't worry, because Jason Kidd eventually figured it out, got at least a little bit better. A little bit better is the key word, and he became a Hall of Famer. That's not to say that Lonzo Ball is the next Jason Kidd. That's not to say Lonzo Ball is going to be a Hall of Famer. The point I'm getting at is, as I'm measuring based off of Jason Kidd's entire rookie season, and Lonzo Ball has only played 15 games, and we're forgetting that this is a 19-year-old kid. Only 1 year of college, coming straight into the NBA with a ton of pressure, playing for a mediocre team. So, perhaps not time to be that worried, or perhaps not time to be that panicked. That said, on the flip side, I would be really concerned about the lack of assertiveness shown on the court, how he kind of seems to just go through the flow of the game and go through the motions, which is exactly not what you need a Lonzo Ball type of point guard to do. He needs to make his imprint everywhere on the game. He needs to be the guy that takes over and dominates the game and enforces his will upon the game, and right now he's just not doing that. That should be a little bit concerning. The lack of confidence in the shot and seeing some of the fear in his eyes and the lack of confidence in his eyes, that's where I would be a little bit worried and a little bit concerned. Because you're at a point right now that only 15 games in, this could be a non-issue in a couple of months. Lonzo could figure it out. Lonzo could turn it around. Lonzo could improve his shot. And we're starting to talk about how good this kid could really be down the road. It might not matter. But right now, even with it only being 15 games in, you have to worry about some of those intangible things. Assertiveness, leadership, confidence. And if you don't get that assertiveness, that vocalness, that leadership on the court, that ability to really impose his will in the game, and you have a guy that continues to lack confidence in his shot and continues to struggle with his shot, it could be something that doesn't just impact his rookie season. It's something that could potentially hold him back from reaching his full potential in his NBA career, because he's going to be afraid to take and potentially make the big shot because he's going to have zero confidence that he can do so. This is going to be a guy that's going to become primarily a pass first and rebound and defend type of point guard with very little scoring prowess. And that's not necessarily the type of guy that a LeBron James or some other high-power free agent is going to want to move from their team to go to Los Angeles to play with. It's not the type of guy that's going to move the needle. So if you're thinking about that and you're thinking about long-term big picture for this organization, maybe you should be a little concerned. It's nowhere near time to panic, but it's also not time to just completely and totally dismiss everything and say, he'll figure it out. He might. And I hope he does. But it's not a guarantee that he will either.